Don't sleep on Kevin Durant, people. He's Kevin Durant. Speaking of which, by the way, Steve Nash, his new coach, taking a very specific approach to handling Durant and his co-star Kyrie Irving's minutes this year. In the 3 games where they both were active, they played together for almost all of their 95 minutes. In fact, in those minutes together, they outscored opponents by 64 points. But when both have been on the bench, the Nets are a minus 23. So, Zach, a lot of teams try to stagger their stars. Do you think Nash taking this approach of playing them together could work long term?
I really like it. Again, you just nailed it. Staggering has been the sexy thing. You got to stagger them, stagger them, stagger them. I think the Nets have taken a really long view to this whole season. How do we want to play when the games really matter in the playoffs? And the answer to that is we want those two guys together on the floor. And one of the great things about Kevin Durant, he is the most malleable superstar maybe in NBA history. He can play with other superstars. He can play on the ball, off the ball, post up, ISO, pick and roll, either ball handler or screener. He can do everything. He's so easy to play with. I like that they've leaned into this and said, you know what, with Caris LeVert, we can have a full-on sixth man, a full-on bench mob. Now the question is, does Spencer Dinwiddie's injury, which is such a bummer, make it harder for them to go this route hardcore long-term? Because he could be another ball handler that if Caris LeVert gets a little overwhelmed or they just need him a little more juice with the bench, Spencer plays those minutes, now he's gone. But I bet they try and keep this setup, and I like it. They're not caving into the popular thing to do. They're thinking bigger, and I think it's a good move.
Well, I want to add to that. Typically when you see stagger, you're staggering it for a reason. And the reason I think teams tend to stagger, let's use Houston and James Harden and Westbrook, 2 ball-dominant guys, 2 point guards, if you would, who like to have the ball in their hands. So one of those guys has to sacrifice that situation. So you stagger them and let one of those 2 guys be the ball-dominant guy with the second unit. With this group, just like you said, Zach, Durant can play off the ball. He's a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands from the start of the clock to the end of the clock. He can get down, post up, mid-post. You can put him anywhere you want on the court, and he can play. Also, Kyrie can also play without the ball as well. Just like I highlighted in my detail segment, sometimes when you have Kevin Durant starting the offense, playing through a big, and it's a pin down with Kyrie and Durant, that's tough, and you have decisions to make. So I think trial and error, why not? It's working so far, go for it. And then when you need to stagger or make adjustments, you do so. But right now, like you said, Zach, hey, you're going for broke. They're plus 60 on teams. You want to just beat teams with your best player as much as possible so you can try to get them longer minutes of rest when you can, knowing that they can make up ground because of their ability to score.
Look, when you have guys who take away and diminish from each other because they both can't have the ball in their hands for enough time, you do need to stagger, right? You don't want your 2 stars to minimize each other. But when the fit is as good as Kyrie and KD, they don't minimize each other, they maximize each other, right? They exponentially improve what the other one can do. That's so valuable. But Zach, you make such a good point with Spencer Dinwiddie. Do you expect the Nets to make a roster move now?
At some point, they probably will. The more interesting question to me is, how do they change their starting lineup? Do they promote Caris LeVert into the starting 5 and go all in around those 3 ball handlers? Do they try and keep him as their Manu Ginobili super 6-man and promote Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, Taurean Prince, somebody like that? My guess would be is they want to keep Caris on the bench. They like the vibe going there. But to me, the interesting question is how does it rejigger their rotation a little bit? We'll see in the next couple of days.
Yeah, and certainly that'll help them try out their options.
I agree. I hope, I know Steve, former teammate of mine, good friend. I hope he leaves LeVert on the bench and have him. You feature him that way. Yeah, I think he's going to become their 3rd scorer. So let him have his time with this style and the way you're playing. Let him have his time with the second unit as the feature guy. And of course, sometimes you can play him with play the 3 of them together. But I think keep it this way. Go get somebody who can get you a bucket, who are ball handler, like a Jamal Crawford or someone who can score and get buckets as well, and can be a ball handler.
Well, look, we certainly wish Spencer the best as he undergoes that surgery and recovery. Tough way to start a season. I know he will come through great, though. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.